What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping by, spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. Um, Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new age, this new age movement, the new world, right? Um, the new age or the new world, this is something that people all over the place have been talking about for a while now, right? Like the new world or the new age. This sort of symbolizes a new era or a new epoch, a new stage of human development and evolution. Okay. And for most new age gurus, this revolution will be a revolution in consciousness. It will not be like a industrial revolution or a great technological evolution. It will be an evolution much closer to home. It will be an evolution within the internal state of the human being. Okay, perhaps instead of being so materialistically inclined, we will grow more towards or more in a spiritual direction in the new age. Okay. Um, but I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts, sort of explore this idea of a new age with you and see if we cannot make some sense out of it. Like, what can you expect from the new age? What is the new world? And how will you conduct yourself in the new world, right? In order to understand this idea of a new world, it might be beneficial for us to go back and understand the old world, right? The old age, the one that we are moving out of, perhaps, right? And there are a couple of different, ages or stages in human development that I would like to talk to you about that I feel like are relevant to this new age discussion that we're having right now, okay? So, the first one, I would describe it as a religious age, okay? And we have since moved beyond this religious age, and this does not mean that there are no religious people anymore. Of course there are religious people, but it seems like the mainstream of society, pop culture, has sort of moved beyond this religious stance on life, right? So when I say a religious age, what I mean is this was a time when everyone believed in God, okay? And they didn't believe like how people today say, I believe in God. You know what I mean? No, these people, our more archaic ancestors, really believed in God. So if like a crazy bad storm happened, right, and floods came through and killed a bunch of people, they would say, God did that. And now you have to figure out why God did that. And the only people who can answer that question for you are members of the priestly class, okay? Like pastors and 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 this kind of thing, you know what I mean? So everyone would ask the churchman, and the churchman had all the answers. He could tell the people, oh, that was God's will. You know what I'm saying? All the people really believed that everything that happened was a product of God's will. And the only people who could interpret the will of God would be the priest, the churchman, okay? And what the churchman said is law, all right? So the big flood comes and the churchman can tell all the people of the city or of the state or whatever, they could tell them, yes, God did that, and God did that because of the sins of the city. And in order to make up for it, we need sacrifice made to God, i.e. the church. And we don't want those cattle, the goats and the sheep anymore. We want the good stuff, man. Gold, and lots of it. That's what God needs. And the people, the citizens, they would believe it. They would go along with it, right? And one of the most important things that the churchman did was able to tell or inform people how to live a good life in the eyes of God. You know what I'm saying? So they had these rules for morals and ethics. These were your lawmakers at this time. And people believed in this. People believed that the churchman actually knew something about something. And so they agreed to follow and listen to the advice of the churchman. And there was literally anything that could be wrong with you, you go to the church man. Like you've got a headache or a stomach ache, or your wife is upset with you, or you're not getting along with your kids, or you're not making enough money, and the church man could prescribe you basically like some holy water, some prayers to say, some devotionals, tell you what to sacrifice, you know what I mean, to appease the gods and have your misfortunes lifted from you. Okay, so they gave us a moral code or something like this. And then what happened was people began to see through the facade that the church man was putting up, right? All of these moral and ethical laws that the church man has established, he's actually going against those, right? So he's saying, thou shalt not kill. But then they may find out that the church people killed some people. You know what I mean? They say, they find out that there's all sorts of like sexual immorality going on in the church and stuff like this. And so people begin to question it. Little by little, that faith that we had in the church man is completely broken down. And because that's breaking down, we need something new. So that would be the religious age. That was sort of the end of the religious age that I was describing to you there. And we enter into sort of a more modern and scientific age after that. The age of science, the age of reason, right? This, in the Western tradition, right, we have a lot of our intellectual accomplishments owed by the Greeks, right? The Greeks were very much so into gathering secular scientific data, okay? And science, what science does is it informs us of our natural environment and allows us a little bit of freedom in certain areas of life, right? Like how to feed ourselves, like with agriculture, that's a form of science, right? So with gardening or whatever, and farming, like livestock and all of this, science is able to tell us how to maximize our efficiency in our environment. We can discover things, we make advancements that sort of free us in the way of hunger and thirst and our need for shelter. And now we're comfortable enough to find a mate or a partner, perhaps reproduce and then go on to chase our desires, have a goal. But you wouldn't be able to have like a big goal for your life if all of these other needs weren't met first. And science sort of does that. Science seems to provide us an answer for everything, you see. And so we go from the church man being in that seat of authority to the scientist or the science man being in that seat of authority. And science, like I said, seems to answer every question for us. But, as I told you in the beginning, science only informs us of our natural environment, this physical environment. With the hopes, is my belief, with the hopes that one day we will conquer nature, we will conquer the forces of nature, the gods themselves, you know what I'm saying? And sort of supplant them. But science only tells us about our immediate physical environment. It doesn't tell us anything about the inside, okay? And one thing that the church man gave us that was very, very important was a cosmological outlook on the world, right? So the church man told everybody, we're at the center of God's universe. We're on earth. God is looking over us. We're the only life forms here. You know what I mean? We're at the center of it all. And the purpose of your life is to have a relationship with God. The entire reason why God created you was to get to know you, to have you live a virtuous life, and to have you make it to heaven and live with God eternally, right? And so it sort of gave us some sort of security, like knowing where we are and what our purpose, perhaps, is here on the planet. But with science, we get the exact opposite. Now, science does inform us sort of a cosmological forming of the universe, right? But it does not tell us the same thing. In fact, it tells us the opposite. It says, there is no God. And this thing that you call Earth is not at the center of anything, okay? You're not at the center of anything. Matter of fact, you don't even matter as far as the big scheme, the big picture, right? You don't even matter. There is no God that cares about you, or any God, period. And so this sort of leaves you lost. It doesn't answer any of your inner, more deeper or soulful questions that you have to ask, So when we abandon the church, man, we sort of abandon our own spirituality also, right? We went on to science, we embrace logic and reason and the mastery of our physical environment, all in hopes of liberation or something like this. But in that process, we made a great sacrifice. Right? And now we're left sort of not knowing where we are or what we're doing or any of that. Okay. Then we find out, once we become hip to this notion that science can't answer every question, and there may be too many questions to ask. You know what I mean? We haven't even properly formulated all of the questions that we need to ask. We don't even know what questions we need to ask. You know what I mean? So maybe we need to start somewhere else. So we start to sort of distrust science. And horrible things have been done in the name of God, right? This is obvious. But horrible things have also been done in the name of science. Did you know that a lot of what Hitler was doing by trying to create a superior race of human beings, a lot of that was backed up by science. He had scientists on his side, and he believed in the science, right? And believed what he was doing was right. So he sort of used science as an excuse to do something horrible. And so people sort of see this happening in the same way they saw it happening with the church, man. They sort of start to distrust the institution of science as a whole. And that's the second age I'm talking about, the scientific age. And I'm not saying that if we have left the scientific age that there are no scientists and that science doesn't play a huge part. Of course it does. Of course it does. But there may be something even more important going on here in this new age, right? What's so funny about this new age is that you could call it the age of information, right? The age of information sharing right now. There is more information at your fingertips with your cell phone than at any other time in human history, okay? You have access to more information than any of your ancestors ever did. But you still don't know shit. Everybody has all this information and we still don't know shit. We still don't know what's right and what's wrong. We still don't know where we're headed. We still don't know why we're here or why we're doing what we're doing. You understand? So in the age of information, you still don't know. And that's a crazy thing to me. That's sort of mind-blowing. But this new age, everybody is walking around with their portable smart device. That's where they get all of their information, all of their news. That's their new trusted source of information, right? And so quite literally in this new age, you are left to your own devices. We've learned to generally distrust everything. You cannot trust anything. There's so much misinformation and disinformation out there that you are completely left to your own devices. We have seen that truth may be relative. There may not be any such thing as truth. The truth may only be what you say it is. You understand what I'm saying? So in this sense, you are left to your own devices. In every single way, you are left to your own devices in this new age. And you're stuck not knowing anything. You see? So this is sort of a mad scramble, a mad dash to find the right thing, but there may not be a right thing. So you see the sort of conundrum that we are in, the problem that we're having in this new age. Every man for themselves. It's like, it's up to you. The responsibility falls on your shoulders now because science tells you how the physical world works. But no one else is there to tell you how this inner shit works, right? How this psychic world works. And so you are sort of left to your own devices to manufacture a belief system, to reprogram yourself if you want to, and it's all on you. So you could mess it up. You could really mess it up. You could really end up having delusional, crazy, insane ideas about the world that will take you over and ruin your life. You know what I mean? We don't want that to happen. So we're stuck looking for the right thing to do. So we're really learning how to become self-reliant. And that sort of is the new age to me. This new age that we're moving into is an age where everyone is left to their own devices, oversaturated with information, so much so that we cannot tell what is true and what is false anymore. So we are in a completely lost stage. We are exploring now our inner world. We've explored the outer world, right? To an extreme now with Jeff Bezos and all of the other billionaires that are trying to go and explore space. We've explored this world. We've learned enough about this world to allow us to relax. We've learned enough about this world to constantly keep our needs met, like food and water and shelter and stuff like this. And now we're able to concentrate on more spiritual aspects, more psychic aspects of the world. Okay, and we're sort of left to our own devices to explore that, sort of as the final frontier. And the problem with this, or what can happen with this, is that, like what you're seeing right now, nobody really knows what's going on with anything, and we're all sort of competing. It sort of is like a revolution or something. Like, there was a period of history called the Enlightenment period, and during that period of time, basically every social norm was pulled in for questioning, right? So in the Enlightenment period, the ideas of what a man is, what a woman is, were questioned. Homosexuality, it was questioned. All of these sort of taboos, they're questioned in this Enlightenment period, right? Where we're trying to become more inclusive and stuff like this. And anyway, I couldn't tell you totally what the New Age is, but to me, that's what it seems like. In the New Age, it's like there is no centralized information. There is no norm anymore. It sort of is whatever you make it, whatever you say it is, and that can be dangerous, right? That can be dangerous. Anyway, man, until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.